Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Dave's Man Cave. So today we're actually, I've done some tabletop overviews of a bunch of guns recently, and today I actually got to the range at lunchtime to go try some out. Now, we're not doing an extensive test. We're not doing any kind of drills with them. This was just to get out, get a feel, see how they group. Some of them I need to adjust how I shoot. Some, they have adjustable sights, so I need to tweak them. That wasn't what today was about. I didn't want to go put 200-300 rounds in per gun and end up spending hundreds of dollars on ammo. So I just took a few boxes just to do some functionality testing and see how they shot, see what the recoil felt like, see how the ergos were. Did they, out of the box, having no experience with this particular gun or these guns, was able to, shoot a respectable group and to just get an overall impression. And also spot if there were any problems out of the box. If you're going to have a problem, typically it's going to be in that initial break-in period where maybe there's a burr on a piece of metal that's catching and it needs to cycle, 20, 30, 100 times to kind of have the two pieces of metal rubbing on each other and smooth everything out. That's not uncommon for new guns. Not that not most guns need it, but, some guns can certainly benefit from that. Also, it's a little difficult going from gun to gun because you got different recoil, different ergos, all that kind of stuff. So you're kind of like, okay, you have to figure the gun out. Some guns you like to use the tip of your finger, and that's where it shoots at straight. And other times it's more towards that first knuckle. But this one is the P30SK from H&K. And it shoots really nice. I mean, you can see there's not a whole lot of recoil. I'm just shooting S&B 115 grain ball ammo. Started off with I think it's a 12-round extended magazine that gives you a really full grip. And then I'm switching over right now to the small grip that's more for concealed carry, just has a pinky extension. So you can get a whole hand on it, but just not as much. The groups were perfectly acceptable. It's got a little bit of a longer trigger. It's a double action. Well, actually, I guess it's single double action. Yeah, single and double action on that one. Got to keep straight because I got 4 different guns here, so I've got 4 different sets of specs in my head. So, anyway, yeah, this part's kind of boring because I'm basically reloading mags, but I needed to give myself time to talk about the impressions. So the P30SK from Heckler & Koch, it's a nice shooting pistol. It's very nice. It's very ergonomic. It is a little bulky for its size, and if you want to compare it to like a Shield Plus, the Shield Plus carries the same amount of ammo and it's a lot smaller and a good bit lighter. So I'm not going to say that this is, any kind of a super lightweight. It's not a SIG 365. What it is, though, is it's built like a tank. It is concealable. It's on the larger side of what I would consider a small CCW gun. And in a world where you got, SIG 365s and Hellcats and even Shields and things like that, it's a little on the beefy side. It doesn't feel that small. But what it does do is, unlike those other guns, it gives you better recoil mitigation. The accuracy is pretty dang good. It's got a decocker. It was a really nice shooting pistol. Had no issues with it. I do think I need to adjust the sight just slightly on that, or even just my trigger. It seemed to be just pulling just a tiny bit to the left, but the groups were perfectly acceptable for a brand new gun that I've never shot before, right? Never played with it, never got used to the trigger, never did any work with it. So now we're going to switch over to the PSA Dagger. And out of the ones I shot today, I would say this one was the biggest surprise, although maybe in some ways it shouldn't be. It feels like a Glock. You pick it up and it's like a hammer. It's something that just instantly feels at home. The recoil was exactly what you'd expect out of a Glock, or a Glock clone in this case. But I'll say that the ergonomics are much better. I had no issues with any kind of reliability. Again, I'm not putting tons of rounds through it. It's just out of the box, see what it does, see how it shoots, all that good stuff. But the Dagger felt really good to me. Comparing it to, maybe some Glocks that I've had before, it felt a lot better in hand. It pointed extremely naturally. Sometimes, if you were to blindfold yourself or just close your eyes and bring the gun out of the holster or just from a down ready position and bring it up onto what you think is the target with your eyes closed, and then you open your eyes and you're like, oh, it's facing up, it's facing down, I need to adjust. This is one of those guns where it just goes right on target. It's a perfect angle, for me anyway, in my style of shooting. it just it went right online. Now you'll notice I'm not doing anything crazy here as far as a stance. I'm not resting on anything to do ultimate accuracy testing. I'm not doing your over-the-top tactical things that everybody does where they pull it in tight to their chest and they try to move like they're doing a robot dance or something like that. That seems to be all the rage with kids these days. I'm not doing any of that. It's not what you would do in real life. If someone, a window break in the middle of the night, you're not going to be doing all these over exaggerated tactical John Wick looking movements that you think make you look like an operator. You're going to point the gun in the direction of the bad guy and you're going to pull the trigger until bad guy stops coming at you. It's a simple equation. So I tend to just not get into all that bullshit. If I was doing competition and something like that, I don't know, maybe there's a benefit there, but I'm not feeling it here. So I think I'll put another mag through. The slide release is nice. It's a little bit bigger than the Glock, so it's very easy to manipulate with one thumb without having to use your weak hand to do it. Just holding the gun without really shifting your grip, I'm able to reach forward and just go pop and drop the slide. So you can see the recoil. Nothing to write home about. I would say the recoil was just a little bit less on the HK. Don't know why. Maybe because your hand sits a little higher. But the PSA Dagger, just felt like a much more ergonomic Glock. The groups were, again, fine and acceptable for a gun I'm just picked up, never shot before, never took any time to learn where the trigger likes to, where your finger needs to be on the trigger and all that good stuff. So now we're switching over to one of the fancy guns. We've got the Kimber KD9SC. This thing is amazing. Now the groups aren't going to be that much better, honestly, than the other ones. This is, again, a gun. You go from all these different trigger styles that have different recoil pulses. The ergos are different. Everything's different. How you pull the trigger, where it resets. So this is something where I'll probably do extended trips to the range, maybe go to an outdoor range where I could come in and spend some good time learning that gun. To get good with a weapon. You should be able to pick up any of these and just kind of look at it, hold it in your hand for a minute and go, okay, and go boom, boom, and start putting some rounds on target, where they need to be. All of these excelled at that. All of these, if I wasn't, speeding up, if I wasn't, doing anything goofy, if I just sat there and went pop, 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 I was able to put them all in like a fist size, group. And it's at 21 feet. That's what you need to be able to do for self-defense. I did do some, towards the end, we'll get into where I was doing some double taps here. And the groups didn't open up a whole lot. They actually stayed kind of right on target. So this one has a very mild bit of recoil. It really, you see it pop up a little bit, but you just didn't feel it a lot in your hand. When you look at it, it doesn't look any better than the other guns. But it felt different. I think because of that wide double stack, the way the machining is, everything's nice and rounded, it distributes all that recoil very evenly across the entire web and palm of your hand. And for that reason, it just felt really smooth, very slick, very controllable, and was able to just put, yards down range, and they were all acceptable. And I really had no complaints on the Kimber here. So I'm loading up another magazine. Maybe 2 more mags. Did I go? How many did I go through? I think I put more through the Kimber. The other ones I only put like 3 or 4 mags through each. That one, again, very easy to hit the slide release with your thumb. Some people like to pull it back and rack it. Whatever works for you. I know it's a slide stop, not a slide release technically, but use it as you will. Some people are comfortable with one way. I don't judge. But really nice, crisp trigger. It's a 1911 trigger. I think the next one is where I decided I had 10 rounds left. I was like, all right, let me just do some double taps. So what I would do is get it cocked, locked, ready to go. And I'd just have the gun aiming down a little bit. They get a little weird at the range if you start drawing from a holster and doing things. And if you go do IDPA and things, then that's how you're supposed to do it. But here at the range, they get a little, squirrely if you start doing stuff like that. They don't mind double taps, but they don't want you just blazing away, like an idiot. So what I would do is put the safety on, put the gun down, and then bring it up, and just do 2 double taps. Safety back on, safety off, 2 double taps. So just drop the safety as it's coming up. And you're able to do relatively, quick. You can see how little the gun's moving. It's kind of staying right on target. And that was really where this gun shone. That's where it impressed me, was doing the double taps. I don't think it may be a little more accurate if you're taking your time and all that. But again, I've got to adjust the sights. All the guns I shot seem to pull to the left today, little bit. So that to me says I'm probably doing something different, and that's a me thing. That's not a gun thing. So now we are on the big boy. We have switched over to the Ronin, made by Springfield Armory. This is a normal, I think it's I don't know if it's a Series 70 or Series 80, 1911. So it's not a 2011 or whatever the Kimber's based on. This is the real deal, but it is shooting the 10 millimeter. And you can see the recoil. It has got a much bigger pop. So we've got a nice thump. And these are with target loads. These are just 180 or 200 grain full metal jacket. These are not full loads. Now I went over to talk to this guy because I heard him. It sounded like shooting a 22. And then I look at him, I'm like, those are much bigger holes. So he had a bunch of different guns. He had like a $4,500 9mm race gun that was all very tactical. But then he also had one with a suppressor on it. And that's what I was hearing. I need to get a suppressor. I know Wesley's been telling me, and Bradley's got a bunch, and TJ's got them. Or I think TJ was looking to get one. And I'm like, you know what? I probably should get one at some point. I just hate the idea of paying all that money and waiting, almost a year to get the damn thing. But it's probably a good thing to have. So sorry for the little side trip there. Probably we should have edited that out, but that was me over there trying to see what he's got. Now, I'll tell you, the first group, I had one flyer. All other 7 bullets out of that 10 millimeter were all touching. It was like a barely a 1-inch group, maybe not even. It was one little ragged hole with one flyer with that first round. So the 10 millimeter impressed. That was by far the most accurate out of the box. Then as things went on, my groups opened up a little bit. And I don't know if it was because of just the extra recoil, because even the light target loads I was using for that, they're still 540 foot-pounds of energy, which is more than a 40, which is more than a 45 plus P, way more than a 9mm plus P. So the recoil was a lot more on that gun. When I had a Glock 29 in 10mm, it didn't seem to recoil as much. I think that big, heavy slide, and I did have one failure to feed where I don't know if my thumb hit the slide lock. It didn't go into battery. I just gave it a tap and it went back in. That was once, and that could have been from, and I think it was when I was doing alternate. These are all the target loads, and then you're going to see me where I go into. I'll hold the box up when the time is appropriate. Where I switched over to the Hornady plus, they're not even full power loads, but they're 659 foot-pounds. So the Underwoods and the Buffalo Bores get you up over 700, and that is a lot of power. That's up into solid, higher, topper at the end, 357 Magnum range. So almost 41 Magnum. So we're still shooting. I think, this is still the target load. But it's got a good bit of recoil. That was one thing. You got a big, heavy slide slamming back, and 10mm is no joke, man. You can see the difference in the boom here and how much that gun's coming up and back and pushing through my shoulders. And these are the target loads. So when we get to the other, you're going to see a difference in the flash. You might hear a difference in the sound. I'll have to play with the audio levels because there's so many other guys at the range shooting today that it's hard to tell which ones are mine and which ones are coming from the peanut gallery. So I think we're transitioning here over to the Hornadies. That's their critical defense customs or something like that. There you go. That's what we're using, 180 grain. And these made a thump. I was very impressed with these. When you're out there shooting your 9mm and you're shooting 45s, and then you go to the full power 357 or 44 mag, and people kind of come over and look like, that didn't sound like what you were shooting a minute ago. That's the difference between the regular 10mm target loads and this. The Ronin was really good. I'll say the Kimber felt better because it was less recoil, but also the shape of the grip. The 1911 grip, especially with that extended extended grip safety, has that little nubbin. But you can see a bigger flash. Yeah, and it's thumping back at me a lot more. It's a lot of power. It's not unmanageable, but even with that big ass heavy gun, man, it's definitely a lot more power. That's what you're going to use for. I mean, you could use the other ones for defense because again, even if they don't mushroom and expand, you're still pushing a 180 grain bullet, and 200 whatever it was, and 540 foot-pounds of energy is nothing to sneeze at. That's typically more than the 40 cals that the cops were carrying for years, and they stepped up from the 9mm to the 40 because they wanted that extra stopping power. This is more than that. So the Ronin was I don't know if it was the star of the day. It did seem to be the most accurate, but again, that's very subjective. I've got to learn each of the guns and where the triggers like to be pushed. When you look at that chart and it says, okay, if you're pushing down to the left, you're too close to the fingertip. If you're pulling to the right consistently and it's not the gun, it's you, the first thing is like, well, maybe that trigger's too far to the knuckle. So when you pull back, you're also pulling to the right. So that's the thing with each gun. You got to kind of learn it. And just only doing a few mags out of each of 4 guns, one after the other. That's where I think I might have lip wristed that one. That's a low power, high power. Low power, high power. You could tell the difference in the kick and the blast there. So I was alternating between the high powers, just you could see back to back what the recoil, looked like and how much the gun jumped. So I think after this, I just had 5 left of the target loads. So I think I just threw some of those in and just to get rid of the last stuff here. Or did I have more than one? No, I think I might have just gone back to. I still had a partial box. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to stop yapping here. Let's do it. Let's just watch one more with the regular target loads. And then we'll jump right to the end and pick back up when you see the groups and stuff. So regular 10 mil target, good thump, more than the 9 and more than the 45, but not as much as those full power loads. But really nice to shoot. I really enjoyed that. So we'll come back in a second here. All right, and we're back, and I think I've just got like 5 bullets left, so I was just going to do a couple double taps with this one, with the Ronin 10mm. Again, with the target ammo, which is still no joke. 10mm always impresses me. I'm going to get more into 10mm. So I'm just going to do one shot, and I think I did 2 double taps. But the double taps go off pretty quick. And when you do it like that, for some reason, I don't know what it is. When you're doing a double tap, I don't know if you're anticipating it more, so the gun doesn't come up as much. But I tend to stay on target better when I do a double tap than. I don't know. That's just a me thing. The gun itself was a pleasure to shoot. I'm going to point to that little block. That was my first group before the double taps and playing with the other ammo. Not that one. That one. That was that first group of 8 shots or something right there. So pretty impressive. All in all, good day at the range.